I want to welcome everyone. Well, first of all, my name is Diane Williamson, U.S. Army, hoo-ah. Welcome to our first but not last, Women's Veteran Recognition Day. We are here, believe it or not, we are here to celebrate the achievements of our fellow soldiers, our sheroes. This facility, this museum, is appropriate for such an event for this occasion, the Alameda Naval Air Station Museum. And it was founded by a woman vet. If you get a chance, one of the things we want to do is keep this building open, keep it in the forefront of Alameda's community. And as possible, we're going to set up some tours. It would be nice to get some tours because I was just really, I couldn't believe all the stuff that's in here. I mean, I wasn't born back in World War I or II, World War II, but it made you feel like you were right there for some reason. And that's really great. The museum was founded by a woman vet, as I said, Marilyn York. That's right. And we will hear more about her later on in the program. Couple of house rules. I would ask that everybody please turn off their phones or put them on vibrate. You don't want to miss any of the good information that's going to be spoken here today. Now the restrooms, I'm sure you can find them. I don't even have the shortest way to say where they're at. But you start by going through the door. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for coming in today. This is really great. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here honoring folks who came before you and are still here. We're going to start off after that. That being said, we're going to have the national anthem being sung by Oakland Military Institute student Peace Creel. So, if Peace would come on up, and we will get into the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rugged red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you.
That was wonderful. We want to thank Peace again for that rendition of the national anthem. As I said, my name is Diane, excuse me, Diane Williamson. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I wasn't supposed to be here, but I am. The story goes that at 6 weeks old, I contracted pneumonia. My father said literally, it was a literal touch and go situation. I've always taken that Williamson story as an omen. You know, the world tells you what you should be, or tries to tell you what you should be. Society tells you, your family tells you, your peers tell you, and even your own body tells you how to be and what to do. Norms like, be ladylike, physically look like this or that, be smart, but not too smart, get married, have kids, etc. You know, I impulsively joined the military after partying my butt right out of college. This is a true story. It was impulse with a dash of my rationale attached. And naturally, my parents didn't understand my rationale. So, out of money to go back to school and not wanting to spend lazy summers in my parents' crosshairs all summer, I threw up my right hand declaring to protect and defend the United States of America. Now, of all the institutions that will tell you what to do and how to be, what did I do? Oh my goodness. The military and females historically were like oil and water. Oh sure, you could be a nurse, a pencil pusher, or a cook. This they expected. I already knew how to cook, my mom taught me. I didn't want to be a nurse, blood made me squeamish, and pencil pushing seemed sort of boring. They did have one MOS though, 55 Golf, a nuclear weapons maintenance specialist. Wow, that rolls off the tongue, and it sounded so cool. Now, I still remember the weapon systems that I worked on and their procedures. Very few women were in that field. Even now, if I spoke about them, I'd have to shoot you. So, this was during the Cold War, and it was cold. It really was. When I got out of the service in '79, I used the only benefit that I knew about. I went back to school under the old GI Bill, the one that said from 1975, you have 10 years for education, you use it or lose it. So I went to school whenever I could while raising my daughter. I did what was necessary for my family. It became difficult to after a while it became increasingly difficult to maintain employment as well as paying for childcare. By 2003, I found myself homeless. From the goodness of others, I couch surfed, not having to live outside or under a bridge. I found shelter for veterans and transitional housing programs like Swords to Plowshares. It was at Swords that I began my healing and my comeback. There, they helped me regulate my situations like runaway high blood pressure, runaway weight gain, and irregular finances. They stabilized me with an all-important address. An address where you can lay your head will never again be taken by granted by me. The biggest breakthrough came when the counselors at Swords helped me put a name to and identify what was going on during my homelessness. Depression, anxiety, MST, and PTSD. Now me, I just figured all this time I was on autopilot. You know, you do what you do, okay? It took the VA 8 years to accept my claim and with 3 denials. I stayed with Swords during this time. Once I became service connected and began receiving compensation, the question became, how can I pay it forward? What can I do to help others? Now, because I did realize that I was more fortunate than others, even with what had happened to me, I still felt like I was more fortunate than others. Not wanting another vet to go through what I went through, I began a nonprofit called the Veterans Community Media Network. Through this organization, I learned all I could about the VA. I created networks, established relationships, and began educating veterans. Had I known what I know now, my entire experience would have been different. My entire experience has been the catalyst for the Veterans Community Media Network. My mantra is I do what I do because of what I went through. This is what drives me. I tell my vets my story. I also tell them not to give up, because if I can do it, you can do it. And there will be veterans who can relate. If only one vet takes on the challenge of obtaining their benefits and follows through, it'll be worth it. It really will be worth it. My goal is to help improve the quality of life for veterans, especially here in Oakland and in the Bay Area. I believe I can, and nothing less will do. Thank you. They gave me 10 minutes for that, and I even talked slow, so I didn't know how to eat up the 10 minutes. Okay, at this time, we're going to have remarks from some of our dignitaries. We're going to have Oakland Deputy Mayor Kimberly Mayfield and Alameda Vice Mayor Tony Daysog come up.
Good evening. It's great to be here to recognize this very important day with you. Thank you, Diane, for your service, your story, and your survival. You're quite an inspiration. This is a proclamation from Mayor Sheng Tao, the 51st Mayor of Oakland, proclaiming June 12th, 2024 as Women's Veterans Recognition Day in the city of Oakland. Whereas the city of Oakland is committed to recognizing and honoring the diverse and invaluable contributions of all its citizens, including those who have served our nation in the armed forces, and whereas women have served in the United States military since the American Revolution, and today they constitute a significant and growing segment of the veteran population. And whereas women veterans have demonstrated extraordinary courage, sacrifice, and dedication in defense of our freedoms, and have significantly contributed to the strength and diversity of our armed forces. And whereas the contributions of women veterans often go unrecognized, and they face unique challenges during and after their service, including access to health care, employment opportunities, and support services. And whereas the city of Oakland recognizes the importance of honoring the service and sacrifice of women veterans, and is committed to supporting initiatives that address their specific needs and celebrate their achievements. And whereas June 12th provides a meaningful opportunity to raise awareness and appreciation for the contributions of women veterans, and to ensure their stories are shared and their legacies are honored. Now therefore, Sheng Tao, Mayor of the City of Oakland, does hereby proclaim June 12th as Women's Veterans Recognition Day in the City of Oakland, and encourage all residents to join in recognizing and celebrating the invaluable contributions of women veterans to our community and our nation. Thank you.
Well, great. It's so good to be here this evening, and a special thank you to each and every one of you who took a time to commemorate this evening and this day and the service of women veterans. And I was glad to hear the name of Marilyn York, because before I began my first stint on Alameda City Council way back in 1996, I was a member of what was called the Alameda Reuse and Redevelopment Authority, which was an entity that was processing the conversion of what ultimately became Alameda Point. And I got to tell you, both Marilyn York and Barbara Bach, we all also remember Barbara Bach, were routinely at the meetings advocating for what ultimately became this museum. So, you know, we honor the works of individuals like Marilyn York and Barbara Bach, but especially we honor the contributions and the sacrifices of women veterans in from our armed services. And you know, for us in Alameda, we take honoring those who serve the military very seriously. Certainly everyone throughout the country does so, but we take special pride in the fact that in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor in December 1941, it was from these shores, from these ports, that the United States officially began its defense of our freedoms through the namesake ship that you see out there, the USS Hornet, which launched the first counterstrike, led by Alameda-born Jimmy Doolittle, and many of those who were part of the Doolittle Raiders, who were part of that USS Hornet, you know, subsequently remained in Alameda and became part of our community. So when asked to participate this evening's event, you know, I made sure that, of course, we will. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you very much to the Alameda County Veterans Commission, Veterans Affairs Commission, for facilitating and sponsoring this, and a special thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out to come out tonight. So with that, I want to read the proclamation that our mayor, Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft, has issued commemorating this evening. Because the proclamation is in such tiny print, fortunately, our City Hall staff gave me a large print. So let me read the proclamation. Whereas 2024 marks the 76th anniversary of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act of 1948, the groundbreaking legislation that granted women a permanent place and the opportunity for a career in this nation's military. And whereas 2 million women veterans have served the United States, with more than 160,000 living in California alone, according to the California Department of Veterans Affairs. Whereas women are the fastest growing group in the veteran population, accounting for 10% of all the overall veteran population today, growing to 18% of the veteran population estimated by 2040. And whereas the early 1990s were a historic time for women in the military, with the deployment of over 40,000 women in support of the Persian Gulf War, and in 1992 in support of the enactment of the Defense Authorization Act that repealed combat exclusion laws that prevented women from flying combat aircraft. And whereas the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and CalVet have introduced initiatives to improve healthcare access and quality of care for women veterans who disproportionately do not use their hard-earned veteran benefits. And whereas the Alameda County Veterans Affairs Commission advises and assists the Board of Supervisors on matters relating to veterans and their families, including veterans benefits, housing, food, shelter, transportation, and employment, and is also charged with providing representation for all Veterans Observance Days, such as today's Women Veterans Recognition Day, to honor and celebrate the respective contributions of all service members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft, Mayor of the City of Alameda, hereby proudly proclaims June 12, 2024 as Women Veterans Recognition Day, and urge all city residents to join in celebrating the many contributions of the women who have served in our armed forces. Signed, Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft. So with this, I also decided to frame the poster. I also decided to frame the poster because I thought the poster was really nice. So, twofer.
All right. Thank you. That was wonderful. Let's give them both another hand. Let the mayor have you. But it was really great to hear these words coming from our community leaders. At this point, we are going to show you a little movie. It's a movie that I put together. It talks about the history of women veterans. It's a series of, it's more like a slideshow. It's a series of clips, some video clips and some stills of what it was like to be in the service as a woman. This movie is about, well, I won't call it a movie, but it's about 10 minutes. Okay, and I hope that everybody can enjoy the movie. And please let me know what you think of the movie afterwards. And if somebody can hit the button.
Sorry, folks, technical difficulties, but we're going to move forward with the rest of the presentation.
Hold on for the popcorn.
I'll go back upstairs.
You can stay here. We'll try. Well, yeah.
While they're working on the kinks, we will continue with our program with an introduction to Alameda County District 3 Supervisor Lena Tam.
Thank you very much for that introduction and for the invitation to participate. Especially, I wanted to thank the chair of our Alameda County Veterans Affairs Commission, Omar Farmer, who has helped highlight this event to celebrate Women's Veterans Recognition Day, which is today. And it's very fitting because it's in my hometown, and as Vice Mayor Daysog said, we are in a very historical building with the Alameda Naval Air Museum, which was founded by World War II veteran Marilyn York, who had served in the U.S. Navy waves. In California, women veterans currently make up about 11% of all the veterans, and that number is only going to increase given the increasing percentage of women that are now making up our active duty armed forces. They're expected to make up about 15% of all veterans by 2034. And Alameda County is home to an estimated 5,000 women veterans. And throughout history, women have fought wars alongside men, but mainly in secret. In the earliest years, women engaged in combat disguised as men. Thankfully, over time, the public has recognized the roles of women in the U.S. military, and that has expanded. In 1948, the Women's Armed Services Integration Act marked the first significant step in bringing women into combat roles. the state of California was one of the first states to officially recognize Women's Veterans Day in 2015. And this effort to recognize the many contributions of women in the military was further emphasized when the legislature passed a resolution to proclaim June 12, 2022 as Women's Veterans Recognition Day. I also wanted to take the opportunity to highlight one woman veteran who exemplifies the sacrifices and services to our country, especially those that veterans represent. And her name is Tammy Duckworth, who is now a United States Senator from the state of Illinois. She lost both her legs when the Black Hawk helicopter, which she was piloting, was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade during the Iraqi Freedom Combat Mission. She was also the first U.S. Senator to give birth while holding office, but not in office, and she was the only second Asian American woman to serve in the United States Senate. So full acceptance of women in the military has been slow in coming, but this event today is a demonstration that change is coming. And under Chair Farmer's leadership, he has not only advocated for our county in Alameda to recognize our women's veterans, but also has a planned event to honor Black veterans at an event coming up later this month. And I have also a proclamation from the entire County Board of Supervisors with our Board President Nate Miley, David Halbert, who represents District 1, Elisa Marquez, who represents District 2, myself, who represents District 3, which includes Alameda, San Leandro, San Lorenzo, and parts of Oakland, and Supervisor Keith Carson, who represents District 5. So I appreciate that opportunity, and I hope that we can get the technical difficulties worked out. Thank you.
Yours. Hello? Hello. There we go.
Speaking this one here.
Oh, I know. You ready to go for the video?
The video will try it again.
I can't hear you, sorry. Okay. There will be a video done at the end. The video will be done at the end of our program. So we will continue with our program as it stands. I now want to introduce to you our keynote speaker today. Let's see, there's a, I'm going to do I have a bio here of, okay. Forgive me, give me a second here. All right, I'm going to give you a short bio, and then we will hear from our keynote. Born in Washington, D.C., Captain Kerri Chase received her undergraduate degree from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, and later commissioned into the United States Navy in 2002. She served on board the guided missile destroyer USS Russell, DDG-59, as the anti-submarine warfare officer and communications officer, including a deployment to Southeast Asia. Captain Chase earned her master's degree from the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, and has completed many tours throughout her 22 years, to include Naval Academy instructor, 2 major staffs, the Pentagon, and 2 commanding officer tours. Captain Chase currently serves as the commanding officer of Navy Reserve Center Alameda, located on Alameda Island. Naval Reserve Center Alameda is home to over 440 full-time Navy sailors and Marines, and over 500 Navy reservists from the Bay Area supporting our national security around the clock and around the globe. Captain Chase for her husband, who is also a Navy vet, and their 2 children currently reside in Dublin, California. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Captain Kerri B. Chase.
Thank you so much, everyone. So first of all, I want to thank you, Diane, for your service and for sharing your story. It was a heartwarming story. Peace, I want to thank you. Not only did you share a gift with us, but it warms my heart to see young people already with a heart for service. And seeing you there in uniform, it just means the world to me because you're the future me. So congratulations to you and best of luck on your journey. I'm really proud of you.
All right.
So there was a lot of hoo-ah, like there was a lot of hoo-ah, and I feel like it's a predominantly Army crowd, and that's okay. But I'm just wondering if there's anybody in the Navy who will just yell. And I know there's a few. Can I get a hoo-yah? Hoo-yah? Okay. We got some hoo-yahs. Okay. So good evening, everyone in attendance, members of the community, everybody who's here tonight, and last but not least, of course, my sisters in arms. A lot of you here tonight. I hear a lot of women here talking about their service, and I'm excited to share this evening with you. Women's Veterans Recognition Day, also called Women's Veterans Appreciation Day, is celebrated today, as you heard, June 12th. It's not yet nationally recognized, but it's recognized by 14 states, obviously one of which is California, but only since 2018. And these states have either passed legislation or issued a proclamation, as you heard here this evening. So why today? Why June 12th? Even though women have been serving since the Revolutionary War, it was because on June 12, 1948, that President Harry Truman signed into law the Women's Armed Service Integration Act. This enabled women to serve as regular members of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force, not only as volunteers or reservists, but as full-time members, and serve we did. Prior to this, women could only serve as nurses and during peacetime. President Truman also desegregated the military, allowing African American women to serve, and serve they did. The legislation was radical, as I'm sure you can imagine, but it did place the following limitations on women's service. Women could constitute no more than 2% of that branch of service. Officers could be no more than 10% of that 2%. Promotions for women were capped at the rank of 03. A limited number of women could serve above that pay grade, but only in temporary and not a permanent status. They were also barred entirely from flag or general officer. Women were banned from serving on board Navy ships, except for transport and hospital ships, and from serving in any aircraft or squadron that could fly a combat mission. This did not change until 1994. Women were denied spousal benefits for their spouses unless the husband could be verified financially as depending on the wife for at least 50% or more of their support. Women were excluded from having non-judicial punishment or court-martial authority over any male sailor. Any woman who became pregnant was discharged from the service. Despite these limitations, we joined and we served. Many of the women who served in World War I and II were not granted veteran status until long after their service, and many passed away, never being recognized as veterans. We were invisible veterans, barred from care, barred from awards, and barred from recognition. But despite the injustices that come with a society that fails to recognize your service, served we did. We were WACs, the Women's Army Corps. We were WASPs, the Women's Air Force Service Pilots. We were WAVES, Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service. We were W this and W that and all kinds of acronyms that started with W until now, when we're finally called sailors, Marines, airmen, soldiers, and Coast Guardsmen. No W's, just like our male counterparts. No more dressing as males, trying to pass as males, showering and changing in secret, as many women were so determined to serve, they did. Critics claimed, the women that serve, their differences will be our downfalls. That was the argument, but that hasn't turned out to be true. I don't think anyone seriously questions the dominance of the United States military. It's the finest fighting force that this world has ever seen. As a nation and as a military, we are more effective when we draw on the talents of all qualified Americans who are willing to serve, and serve they have, serve they do, and serve they will. Thank you for your service, Marilyn York, a woman veteran who, as you've heard today, is the founder of this Naval Air Museum where we stand tonight. She spent 33 years as a journeyman aircrew mechanic. Doesn't sound like an easy job. Thank you for your service, Loretta Perfectus Walsh. She was the first woman to openly enlist and serve in the Navy Reserve. Thank you for your service, Master Chief Anna DeVartanian. She was the first woman to achieve the rank of Master Chief in the United States Navy. Thank you, Annie Graham, the first African-American female to enlist in the Marine Corps. Thank you, Captain Amy Baunerschmidt, as of 2020, the first female to command an aircraft carrier. This year, we celebrate our first female Superintendent of the United States Naval Academy, Vice Admiral Yvette Davids. Our soon-to-be second ever female Chief of Navy Reserve, the highest ranking officer in the Navy Reserve, Admiral Nancy LaCour, who's awaiting Senate confirmation. And to round out three of the highest positions in the United States Navy, currently in command of the entire United States Navy, if you didn't know, is the CNO, our first ever female CNO, Admiral Lisa Franchetti. Because of women veterans, many of whom are in this room, we are no longer invisible veterans, but rather we serve in the most visible positions that our Navy has to offer, and we have female veterans to thank for that. And while this day and no number of proclamations will erase decades of thankless sacrifice and failure to recognize your service, female veterans, let us, the female service members, across all branches and through all wars, tonight formally thank you for your service. Your firsts allowed us to be the 100th, the 200th, the 300th, the 10,000th, whatever. It allowed us to stop counting the number of women who have done anything at all. God bless you, female veterans, my sisters in arms here this evening, past and present, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Chase, for your inspiring remarks. I am proud to not be the first of anything. I am a U.S. Army veteran, and I am on the subcommittee that helped put this event together tonight. And my name is Laurel Plimier, and we are going to be presenting a few awards tonight from the Alameda County Veterans Affairs Commission. The first award is the Alameda County Women Veterans Recognition Day Community Award, and this award is presented to a woman veteran who is dedicated to serving those who have served our country and who champions the rights and needs of fellow veterans in her community. To present a Quilt of Valor to the recipient of this award, I would like to introduce Michelle McCumber, who leads the local Livermore chapter of the National Quilts of Valor organization. And while she makes her way, come on up, while she makes her way up. Actually, I'll wait till
Thank you. Thank you, Omar Farmer, for inviting Quilts of Valor to honor a very courageous lady, Diane Williamson. We are honored for this privilege. Who is Quilts of Valor, and why are we invited to this fabulous ceremony? Well, we're a group of about 11,000 members nationally, started in 2003 by our founder, Catherine Roberts. Fast forward 21 years later, and we have over 660 groups making homemade, handmade Quilts of Valor to honor our very deserving veterans. Locally, we have awarded, this is number 970, Diane, and it's yours.
Okay.
Nationally, we have awarded over 385,000 Quilts of Valor to our veterans. So earlier this week, my printer melted down, but where there's a will, there's a way. And thank goodness for iPhones. I took what I had on my Word documents and I attached them to my phone. So, no fail here. Diane Williamson was born in the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. After leaving college, she joined the Army in the summer of 1976, becoming a nuclear weapons maintenance specialist. It was a tough field for women. From basic training at Fort McClellan, Alabama, advanced individual training at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama, all the way to a small Army depot in New Jersey with an American native name, Pickaninny Arsenal. She learned the art of special weapons maintenance. Diane, would you please stand next to me while I complete your presentation? The mission of Quilts of Valor Foundation is to cover service members and veterans touched by war with comforting and healing Quilts of Valor. Your quilt is an expression of gratitude meant to thank and comfort you for leaving all you hold dear to serve, whether in time of crisis or in time of peace. It has been written by an author unknown that a veteran is someone who at one point in their life wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for an amount of up to and including their life. Your Quilt of Valor unequivocally says thank you for your service, sacrifice, and valor in serving our great nation. As there are those resolved to serve their country, so are we resolved to honor and comfort them. We will never forget the men and women who served our great nation. Though we may never know the depth of your sacrifice to protect and defend the United States of America and our Constitution, as a gesture of gratitude and of a grateful nation, we award you your Quilt of Valor. On behalf of Quilts of Valor Foundation, please know that when you need a hug, wrap yourself in your Quilt of Valor and know that this is a hug made with love. Quilts equal healing. Okay. Nope, there's a way to do this. So Mike, you're gonna take this, and Chuck, you're gonna take this side, and you're gonna show. Chuck knows what to do. First, Diane gets to look at her quilt.
Wow.
This was made by one of our master quilters, Pam Hoffman in Livermore. So let's show the audience.
Wow.
a master of work. Yeah. So what the guys are doing right now, and by the way, Chuck McCumber and Mike Gilmore from Livermore Post 7265. And they're gonna wrap this quilt around you, Diane, if it's okay with you. And that is your hug made with love. Oh my gosh.
Wow, there we go.
God bless you.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you so much.
All right.
Just me.
This is wonderful.
Congratulations, Diane.
Thank you.
And thank you again to all of the great work that you do at Quilts of Valor. Much appreciated.
Yes, most definitely.
Our second award is the Alameda County Women Veterans Recognition Day Breaking Barriers Award. This award is presented to a woman veteran or service member who has broken societal barriers, whether by being the first woman to achieve a certain accomplishment or by her collective achievements in military leadership and service. This inaugural year, the Breaking Barriers Award is presented to Lieutenant Colonel Marisol Chalas. Colonel Chalas is the garrison commander for Parks Reserve Forces Training Area in Dublin, which is commonly called Camp Parks. And in case you're unfamiliar with what a garrison commander does, in Lieutenant Colonel Chalas's own words, being a garrison commander is like being a mayor or a manager of a city. Colonel Chalas was born in the Dominican Republic and moved to the United States when she was 9 years old. She began her military career as an enlisted soldier in 1990 and received her commission as a second lieutenant after completing officer candidate school in 2001. She has operations and strategic experience in the United States Army Forces Command, which is called FORSCOM, and at the headquarters Department of the Army level. Her international duties include battle captain and platoon leader during Operation Iraqi Freedom and aviation liaison in the Dominican Republic under a combined joint task force. Colonel Chalas's military education includes the UH-60 Aviator Qualification Course, and the UH-60 is the Black Hawk helicopter. And Colonel Chalas is the first Latina National Guard Black Hawk pilot. She also has a Bachelor of Science degree in Marine Engineering from Massachusetts Maritime Academy, a Master of Business Administration from Georgia State University, a Master of Legislative Affairs from George Washington University, and a Master of Strategic Studies from the U.S. Army War College. Colonel Chalas is a highly decorated officer with more oak leaf clusters on more medals than I have time to read tonight. But suffice it to say that Colonel Chalas has broken societal barriers with her achievements and leadership as a Latina woman. As part of our Breaking Barriers Award, the Alameda Naval Air Museum will be creating an exhibit in her honor. And the museum will also display perpetual plaques with the names of the awardees for both awards, starting this year and for future years. Colonel Chalas was unable to be with us tonight, so here to receive this award on her behalf is Chaplain Captain Kerri Sykes.
Wow, it's pretty, it's humbling to be up here following so many amazing speakers and so many amazing women and individuals in our community. Diane, it was powerful to see you get that hug. No veteran should ever be homeless. No veteran should ever be homeless. And Captain, ma'am, I am so glad you recognize that you all are surrounded by soldiers. Who are? There are a lot of soldiers here. I feel very proud. I do want to just ask, because I don't know if you already have this plan, so I hope it didn't steal any thunder, but I'm just wondering, how many women veterans are there out there? Would you stand up? ever woman to serve in the military in your family. Wow. Thank you. There are a lot of firsts in this room. There's a lot of firsts. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Mrs. Fournier. You're right there. Thank you so much for the warm introduction. My name is Chaplain Terry Sykes, and I serve as a Deputy Garrison Chaplain at Camp Parks, and more fondly known as Camp Parks. I was going to tell you the Parks Reserve Forces Training Area, but nobody even knows what that is. I always have to say Camp Parks. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Colonel Marisol Chalas could not be here tonight. She wanted me to share with you that she really wishes she could have been here in person at this amazing venue. I love being able to come to places like this because we should never forget what people gave. It's important. And it's amazing to be able to accept this Women's First Award on her behalf. She said until Silicon Valley can master cloning, she can only be in one place at one time. I'm sure they're going to get it right, though, eventually. And the Army had other plans for her tonight. Still, it is a great honor to represent her and for me to be present, so I'm excited. Thank you, Alameda County Veterans Affairs Commission, and thank you, Mr. Farmer, for reaching out to me and giving me this opportunity. Captain Chase, that was a wonderful speech. This is not going to compare, I promise. That was very powerful and inspiring, and I truly feel so blessed to be here and know that it wasn't as hard. It wasn't as hard, and that we're still pressing forward. So thank you. I'm humbled to be up here after. Colonel Chalas has been my commander for the last 18 months, but she has also been my friend and a mentor to me. And so it is with great pleasure I share just a glimpse into the background of the woman veteran you are recognizing with this award tonight. Lieutenant Colonel Chalas is the first member of her family to receive a college degree, to join the Army, to become an officer, and yes, to fly Black Hawk helicopters. That's pretty cool. Lieutenant Colonel Chalas held leadership positions at corporations like General Electric, served as a military fellow for Congressman Betty McCollum, and has worked for the Army's 37th Vice Chief of Staff, and in her words, not too shabby for an immigrant from the Dominican Republic. She is the embodiment of the American dream, and quite frankly, the embodiment of the American dreams of many right here in this community. As an immigrant, she arrived here at a young age and through grit, determination, and sheer will, not only succeeded, but thrived. Her story began in the early 80s. Her parents made the tough decision to leave the Dominican Republic and come to the United States, and I had the great pleasure of hearing this story directly from her mother. With tears in her eyes, she told us about the heart-wrenching choice to leave her daughters for a time, to come to the U.S., to set up a place for her family, because her dad and mom wanted to expose Lieutenant Colonel Chalas and her sisters to the opportunities in the United States of America. According to Lieutenant Colonel Chalas, her parents never regretted their decision to move to the U.S., but it wasn't easy. Like other immigrants before them, they faced many challenges: family separation and culture shock, especially due to the fact that her parents settled in Lynn, Massachusetts, which was not necessarily known for its tropical climate or merengue dancing. But then again, the Dominican Republic is not famous for its clam chowder or professional sports champions. Go Patriots. Still, her parents persevered and soon brought Marisol and her sisters to live with them in the States. Lieutenant Colonel Chalas picked up many new phrases along the way, including you guys, which at times can be taken the wrong way, especially when you work in a male-dominated field and you're not trying to leave out the few women who are blazing trails in unfamiliar territory. So, when she says, you guys, she always follows that up with a joke saying, I only say you guys because I'm from Boston. But really, that's just part of her disarming and engaging leadership style that we at Parks, and I think many of you who know her tonight, recognize. Lieutenant Colonel Chalas credits her parents for instilling the importance of having a solid work ethic, determination, and above all, courage. They taught her to never give up and to take pride in whatever job she was doing at that time. More people could learn from that. She says her success stems partly from the unconditional love and support she receives from family, friends, teachers, mentors. She will admit her 3-decade-long journey to lieutenant colonel has been full of challenges. She says she's faced hardships, discrimination, and most harming, self-doubt, but says she would do it all over again. Both the Army and her alma mater, Massachusetts Maritime Academy, taught her a lot about herself. She's learned to rely on her strengths and manage her weaknesses. But more importantly, she learned not to let fear hold her back. When she graduated from the Maritime Academy, there were 124 cadets in her graduating class. 8 were women, and of those, 3 were engineering graduates. While at the academy, she faced isolation and at times felt like an outsider, but she overcame. Upon graduating from the Maritime Academy, she was hired into General Electric's Nuclear Technical Leadership Program. I don't think that was easy. As a nuclear field engineer, there's another mouthful, right? While working on one of her first assigned projects, she noticed that one of the team members was quick to dismiss her input anytime she had an opinion. It made her uncomfortable, and she began to doubt herself and her abilities. But she did not sink into the background. She wouldn't do that if you knew her. Instead, when the opportunity arose, she courageously asked him why. Sometimes we should ask questions. Asked him why he was quick to dismiss her recommendations, and he said, "You didn't fit the mold, nor look like an engineer." I'm wondering what that still is and what that looks like. Though she did not dismiss his insult, but instead, by just being true to herself, hardworking, diligent, and compassionate, they earned each other's respect, and they stayed in touch even after the project ended. In 2001, she pivoted to a career as an Army aviator, and when she began flight school that year, there were over 3,000 Black Hawk pilots in the Army, but of those, only 120 were women. While at flight school at Fort Rucker, now known in Alabama, now known as Fort Navassa, she was once told by one of her instructors that it takes females a lot longer to get it. This comment drove her to study and work harder. No way on earth would she allow him to say, "I told you so." She's still like this now. I think I would laugh if anyone just told her she couldn't do anything, and then I'd stand back and watch as she proved them all wrong. It's awesome to work for a woman with that much grit. She once said flight school was fun and challenging. She had to work hard, she had to overcome self-doubt, but not only did she graduate, but she graduated as one of the top in her class. Lieutenant Colonel Chalas has dealt with highs and lows. I've seen them throughout her life and her career, but she has vowed to never give up. She says she has had her moments, her times when she questioned herself. Should I have pursued a different career in the military? Why did I pursue a degree in engineering? It's time. It's time. She worried that she was setting goals that were out of her league. And during those times of doubt, she leaned heavily on the people that she trusted. And I feel incredibly lucky and blessed to be one of those people now. With support, she has always been able to persevere. But her goal has never been a destination. Life is about having a good story. That's what everyone wants in the end. Her life is one of celebration. To celebrate what commitment and determination can do. Every human, every man, every woman, every first woman veteran will face adversity. But what matters is how you respond to it. And if I had one word to encompass her response to it, it was dignity. Thank you for presenting this award to her tonight. It has been an honor and a privilege to accept it on her behalf. Thank you.
to the women who are veterans or who are currently serving and helping us with the program tonight, little pins that say "Women Proudly Serve," and they come from the Women's Veterans Association. So in closing, are we one more shot on video?
Let's do this.
All right.
I think it's warm.
I'll just say very, very quickly, this is a compilation of videos, shorts, and snapshots of women in the service throughout history. I hope you enjoy it, and I'd love your feedback.
I volunteered because, number one, I'm a U.S. citizen. You know, there are so many freedoms that we take for granted.
Today, more women serve in the armed forces of the United States than at any other time in our nation's history.
The right to fight.
In ways never before possible.
Women want to do their job, whatever it is, in peace and war.
The service of these women has been heroic.
Women are in combat. Let's make that very clear.
Their sacrifice is profound.
It's difficult to know that somebody that you don't even know is trying to kill you.
And their noble accomplishments largely ignored.
We were probably the best kept secret of World War II.
That terrible injustice will be corrected forever as executive producer Ron Howard and the creator of For Love of Liberty, the story of America's Black patriots, present Unsung Heroes, the story of America's female patriots. A 2-hour documentary special that will finally, and for the first time, set the record straight.
We weren't always known on the surface for what we did in our work, but we were there.
At the heart of the special are powerful first-hand accounts.
And that's when the giant fireball landed in my lap.
From women who have lived the story.
If there was bad guys out there, we'd go out and find them.
This eclectic mix of on-camera interviews.
I knew this was going to be an unsurvivable wreck.
Is illustrated by rare photographs, archival material, and personal memorabilia.
It was not a happy time. Didn't have any clue.
The Army regiments to be formed entirely of African Americans. This is an opportunity.
Which reveal the unheralded sacrifices of this valiant legion of American patriots.
What can a father do clear on the other side of the world?
Unsung Heroes, the story of America's female patriots.
The women that have gone before me have paved the way.
It's a film about all guts and no glory.
All we ever ask for is that our overlooked history would someday no longer be a missing chapter in the history of America.
For every woman that serves, just like for every man, is their willingness to answer the call. You know, this nation says, who will protect us? Who will leave your homes? Who will leave your families and protect not just your neighbors and the people you love, but people from across the country that you will never know, who will never thank you. And these women said, I will. and they all volunteered to do it.
I don't like the fact that sometimes the general public and sometimes even our fellow veterans think that we can't do anything because we're a woman. The military puts us in a job, we get it done. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, it doesn't matter about color. If the bullet doesn't care what sex or gender you are, then I don't know why anyone else should. My name is Tracy. I served from 1991 to 2003.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for our April Glimpses of the Past. This year's series is going to focus on a variety of topics, but concentrate primarily on the history and experiences found on the Santa Fe Trail as we commemorate its 200th anniversary. Tonight's program is going to focus on one of the most unique lives found in the history of the Santa Fe Trail, that of Cathay Williams, or Private William Cathay, as we discover their life's journey from slave to soldier. In order to understand the history of Cathay Williams, or Private William Cathay, we're going to have to go all the way to the beginning, all the way across the Santa Fe Trail from Fort Union near its beginning in Independence, Missouri, where she was born enslaved in 1844. At this time, there were roughly 60,000 enslaved individuals in Missouri, working the farms, plantations, warehouses, and homes scattered throughout. She was born to an enslaved mother and a free father. By the nature of this, she would have no relationship with her father at all, as he was a freeman, and the plantation sought to undermine their influence to those who were still enslaved. As a young girl, she began her work in the home of the plantation before transitioning into the fields, where she grew into a larger frame as a teenager. This was her life for the first 17 years, until change came in 1861. The plantation owner had passed away, and with the start of the Civil War in the spring, things began to move rapidly. She finds herself in Jefferson City as it's liberated by federal forces, the 8th Indiana, the Hoosiers. When the federal forces liberated Jefferson City, although it ended her enslavement, it did not mean she was free. No longer a slave, but now considered contraband by the Army, property. She begins her time serving as a cook and later on as a laundress. Although as contraband she would not be paid, not as a soldier, she would eat the same food, sleep on the same ground, march through the same territory as they campaigned throughout the Civil War. She became familiar with this life and more comfortable with it. That life as a soldier was less harsh than life as an enslaved woman. As the Civil War concluded and the 8th was disbanded, she was now transitioning to another stage of her life, where now she was a free black woman. There was very little that she or any other black individual could do with their freedom at that time. She could not vote, she had no means of owning land, and employment opportunities were sparse. She would move closer to Jefferson Barracks, hoping to pick up employment with the Army once again, since that was something that she had experience with. This is where she would live and work over the next year until the summer of 1866, when she hears that Congress has authorized the formation of U.S. regular Army regiments to be formed entirely of African Americans. This is an opportunity for her, and she seizes it. Heading to the recruitment station, she's transitioned to William Cathay, a prime recruit for these newly formed regiments. Now a part of Company A of the 38th U.S. Infantry, Private Williams makes his way, with the rest of the regiment, across the Santa Fe Trail to Fort Union. A life beginning in independence, and now marching his way across the Santa Fe Trail with musket in hand. No longer preparing meals, now a soldier in blue uniform. A cholera outbreak has them quarantined just outside of the post before they continue their way deeper into the territory, crossing from the Rocky Mountains into the high deserts, terrain completely different from the flats of Missouri and the woods. Finally arriving at Fort Baird with the rest of the regiment, William Cathay gets sick, requiring an extended stay in the post hospital. And this is where his service comes to an end. Discharged, citing medical reasons, Private William Cathay is no longer in the Army. And he becomes Cathay Williams once again, a cook and laundress for the Army, making her way up the trails that William had marched down. Arriving back here at Fort Union, she serves as a cook for officers, eventually saving up enough money to make her way up the trail again into Trinidad, where she retires. Unfortunately, we don't know much about her later life after she arrives in Trinidad. But her story is truly unique, being the only known female Buffalo soldier. But this is just one of many diverse stories and histories found on the Santa Fe Trail. And if you want to learn more and discover some of these stories, join us here at Fort Union National Monument as we commemorate the bicentennial of this historic trail. Thank you, and we'll see you later.
I raise up my voice, not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back. Malala Yousafzai.
Retired Army veteran Delphine Metcalf Foster was elected National Commander of the nearly 1.3 million member DAV, Disabled American Veterans, at the organization's 96th National Convention. She became the first woman veteran, as well as African American female, to assume the organization's highest post. She is also the first female elected to lead one of the country's major veterans service organizations.
Good evening. I'm Omar Farmer, the chairperson of the Alameda County Veterans Affairs Commission. And thank you all for being here. This is really great. This is the first ever known celebration of Women Veterans Recognition Day in Alameda County. So I think that's great to have this as a first at this museum that was founded by a woman veteran. And I just really appreciate you all for being here. And I really want to thank our guest speakers, Captain Chase, Supervisor Tam, and really congratulate Laurel and Diane for running this event. It's truly been special to be a part of this. And a special thanks go out to Joe Laparo and Larry Pyrek. They're on the board of directors here at the museum. And I don't know if Larry's in the room here, but Larry has done a tremendous amount of work just bringing in the artifacts and all the historical pieces here to the museum. And you know, he's not even a veteran. So I don't know if he's in here, but I just want to give Larry a round of applause on the board of directors. And so this is just really special for me. You know, my daughter and I, Joe told me about this museum. We were trying to find a venue. Laurel, myself, and Diane were on the subcommittee for the commission. And Joe told me about this. He was saying how Marilyn York is a World War II era veteran. She founded the museum. And so my daughter and I came and scoped it out. You know, in the military we call that doing recon. So we came here and did that. And you know, at first I wasn't sure if we were going to do it here. We had a couple other options we were looking at. And my daughter, she couldn't be here tonight. She's really the one, and she's a teenager, by the way. She's 15 years old. She was like, Dad, you know, we really need to, this is a perfect place because we really want to bring foot traffic here and lift up the voices of Marilyn York and all the women veterans. So if you haven't had a chance to see the women veterans display downstairs, please do. There's also an office, Marilyn York's old office that's been preserved. You should see that if you're here. This is really an amazing place. There's more things to see in the back. We can't be here all night. It's only supposed to go to around 8:30, but this is a perfect opportunity to do that. And I really appreciate seeing the rest of the commissioners here. There's a lot of you here. If you could stand up and just be recognized real quick, I want to give you a quick round of applause. Commissioners. And I'm really appreciative of Bob Swanson over here. He is a Vietnam era veteran. He is Supervisor Miley's military liaison. He's taking video of the event. He's our photographer. Thank you, Bob. You're the best. Really.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and he's really helped educate us about Marilyn York as well. And Ron Payne here in the middle helped me out with the video. Thank you. Ron is Congressman Swalwell's military liaison. Thank you for being here, sir. Really appreciate you. But that concludes the event, and there still is plenty of food and drinks. Please enjoy yourselves. Thank you, everyone that's been here, and hope to see you again. Thank you.